Okay, through there. Can you hear me all right now?
Yes.
Good. Yes, so I have some questions that were given to me. So here's from Velibor. Velibor? I have been following Ajahn Sona with great interest, and my understanding is that central in his teaching and the Buddhist teaching in general is how one feels. That is the regulation of emotions towards the elimination of negative ones and the realization of the four divine emotions, metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha. My question is about ontological problems within Buddhism. What is Ajahn Sona's view, both personal and that of the Theravada tradition, on the relationship between the following concepts: svabhava, anatta, sunyata, paticca samuppada? Can these be coherently interlinked and interrelated without falling into contradictions, conflicts, and mutual exclusions? Now, who is Velibor?
He wouldn't be there because he doesn't live in Belgrade.
Not here. He is not here.
Okay. Well, it's a nice, very sophisticated question. So, first of all, I'm not sure that the first part of the question relates very much to the second part of the question. He's saying, I'm interested, Ajahn Sona is very interested in how one feels, and I am. I want to shift the emphasis to make sure everybody understands when they come to Buddhism what the Buddha is actually teaching. And he's actually teaching that, he starts right up front. There's a problem here. There's suffering. Suffering, how do you suffer? You suffer through feelings. If no feelings, no suffering, right? Stones don't suffer. It's feelings. You suffer through feelings. So when I say, how do you feel? That is the core question that the Buddha is asking. And he's saying it's a great shame that you are not feeling well. In other words, you are suffering, you are experiencing some sort of pain, or you are going to experience some sort of pain unless you adjust your attitude. So it's this, everything that he teaches is how to adjust your attitude so that you reduce the amount of pain in your life, either now or in the future. So that's and of course there's a number of ways to do that, and it's not merely the absence of pain. It's the presence of strong, continuous, sustained well-being, types of emotional states that are beautiful and can be sustained on a constant basis throughout life. It doesn't mean, though, that these states don't vary or change. So we're not talking about permanence. We're talking about positive states which are continuously moving, changing, but they don't move and change into negative states. That's all. Negative states are changing and moving as well. And also positive states are changing and moving. But it matters which one you're experiencing. So there is a spectrum of states. Let's call it in the blue zone, which is the beautiful zone. There's a number of possibilities. There's loving kindness, there's compassion, there's sympathetic joy, equanimity, clarity, stillness, energy, joy. These are all in the blue zone, right? And the needle moves back and forth in the blue zone. But when it goes into the red zone, that's not, you don't want the needle to go in the red zone. The red zone is anger and fear and anxiety, jealousy, confusion, depression. This is the red zone. The needle should not go into that zone. The needle swings back, and with ordinary people, the needle swings back and forth there. Sometimes it swings into the blue zone, but it swings into the red zone. So the idea of the Buddha is saying, look, let's just make sure this needle never goes into the red zone. It stays in the blue zone. It moves back and forth, but in the blue zone, where it's handling the situations of life with appropriate, positive situation. It's snipped the strings between you and the exterior reality, so that exterior reality cannot pull your strings. You snip them, right? You are interior based now, and you're radiating out. Doesn't mean that you are indifferent to the outside world. It means that you're radiating positive towards that. And sometimes the external situations in the world are very terrible. People are dying and killing and diseased and losing, weeping, suffering. What's our response is to radiate solidly towards that. That's our response. So now the next part of that question is this. And some of those words, I'll try to talk about some of the words. The second half of the question. My question is about ontological problems within Buddhism. So ontological, from my old philosophical days, we talked about ontology a lot, ontological. It has to do with being, the nature of being. Ontology is just about being. And the question is a little bit loaded. It says, my question is about ontological problems within Buddhism. There aren't any ontological problems within Buddhism. What it should have been said is that if there are ontological problems, there aren't any ontological problems. The people get confused a little bit about this, but so here's what he talks about with the ontological problems. Anatta means no self. No self. And this is very, very important. This is the thing which distinguishes Buddhism from virtually all other religious teachings. Anatta, no self. And then there's another word, sunyata. Sunyata is also used more in the Mahayana school, and it means emptiness. Just means like they talk about going into a grove where there's nothing in there. It's an empty grove. It doesn't mean that it's, by the way, so emptiness sounds not very inviting, does it? It sounds kind of cold and chilly. Emptiness. Who wants emptiness? Do you want emptiness? You want an empty cup of coffee? You want to empty this, empty that? No. What is it empty of? It's empty of self. Is that going to feel like no feelings or anything? No. The self or the ego is the problem. It's where the suffering arises from. So we're going to empty out the self construction, which is problematic and full of suffering. We're going to redo our concept of ourself. And when we do this, we empty out that, and what's left in that is space and freedom and lightness of being in accord with how reality is. So it's very important that we understand this term. Sunyata and anatta are not empty, scary, vacant kind of conditions. It's the overcoming of delusions. Delusions which cause distress. That's what it is. So we're emptying out the delusions which cause distress. And as I said in the first half, what comes rushing in to that is lightness and energy and joy and serenity. That's what fills that space. There's another thing that is common quite often. If you're a thinker, occasionally you'll think, well, if there's no self, what goes on in time? So he mentions this thing called paticca samuppada. And that's another core teaching of the Buddha. It's a fairly sophisticated teaching, but not so much that I think ordinary people now can understand it. And it is that it's the explanation that there is no self that is like a marble that moves through time. Your self is not a solid structure which moves through time. The same self, when you were a child, you do not have the same self as you had when you were a child. And so the Buddha is giving a new way of explaining things. And it's called causal. It's causality. And another word, flux or flow. So he says life is not a thing that moves. Yourself is not a thing that moves through time, but a river of events. So most people think about their self as if they were kind of a cork floating down a river. Yourself is a cork that floats down the river of time, bobbing this way and that way, but it's the same cork floating down the river of time. But no, there is no cork floating down the river of time. There's only the river of time. And this is the childish understanding that yourself is this thing that goes through time. There is no thing that goes through time. There's only flow and change. The flow and change, though, happens for reasons. And this is what we understand in the modern times. We understand in the modern times that things are causal.
Sorry, Ajahn.
Yeah.
We lost you for a second. So can you repeat the last sentence or two?
Yeah. Only if you tell me what was the last word I said. What was the last word I said? Huh? Good. That was just a test. I just wanted to find out if you're listening. So, the last word, in modern times, have I, is somebody,
It's okay.
Okay.
You go on.
Yeah. So, in modern times, we understand causality. Things arise for a reason, and they arise quite often through multiple causes. So in these days, the closest thing we can come to is like what we call ecology. You know, if birds die because of too much pesticide, because they're eating fruit all the time, if the birds die, then the insects increase. And then the insects might attack the trees, and seeds that are normally carried by birds are not carried far away, and so new trees do not grow, and you see that one causal structure in there affects the whole system. So we understand that in these days, that these are not, you can't just kill all the birds and solve the problem. Everything will be affected by that. It's a cause. It's a flowing, interrelated cause. So this is the same in the internal dimension of a human. There are causes and conditions, and when this cause arises, then this one follows. But if this cause does not arise, then this one also ceases. So this is a kind of a thing that modern people can understand quite well. But at the time of the Buddha, it was a very difficult concept. That things are flowing and moving all the time, and that causality happens in a little sequence like that. So it was very difficult to explain that to people. People had the idea that things appeared out of nowhere. It's very common for them to think something appeared out of nothing, just nowhere. And whereas we tend to ask, well, what is the cause of this? How does this arise? What are the causes of this? So this is the idea of dependent origination, or paticca samuppada. So this is how the Buddha explains how causality continues throughout life without needing the idea of a self. You don't need the idea of a self in order to understand the process, which we could call selfing. You are selfing. You are not a noun, you are a verb. You are a river of events. You are not a little cork floating in this river. What about the end of life? What happens at the end of life? If there's no self, how can this idea of continuation or rebirth happen? The Buddha says it's no problem. There never was a self, and you continued throughout your life. You continuously change throughout your life. You don't need a self linking each moment. You don't need a self linking each moment. Each moment rises with certain conditions and influences the conditions of the next moment. But this moment falls away and the next one arises. Then that moment falls away, the next one rises. So think about dominoes. You know this, when they line up all these dominoes, and then you touch the first one and it knocks into the second one, and the next one knocks into that, like that? Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that,
Yes.
no, so think of this. There's also, when we have a little track, and you take a steel ball, and you roll it down the track. It winds down the track like that. That's one type of motion. But the other type is dominoes, where you touch the first one, it knocks into the second one, but it just falls down. And the second one knocks into the third one, and then falls down. So there's a whole line of cause and effect. One moment knocks into the next moment, but the first moment doesn't go to the end. With the little steel ball in the track, the steel ball goes to the end. But with the dominoes, the first domino just falls down right there. It doesn't go to the end. But energy is transmitted between each moment. Energy is transmitted, and this is what a human is. The human is like dominoes, little moments, thought moments rising, knocking into the next one, into the next one, the next one. Each one influencing, giving conditions and changing the direction of each moment. And that your life is this series of dominoes. Maybe you should just do it as an exercise at home, just to remind you what your life is really like. So we want to get rid of the model. It's an old model that a person is a little steel ball that doesn't change and rolls through life. That's an old model from the ancient thinking. And the Buddha is introducing a new model of reality, where one moment knocks into the next moment. And that's how it really works, both in the internal human world and also in the physical world. It's very easy to get this confused. When I ask people about waves, when you go to the seashore and you watch the waves roll in, it looks like the wave actually rolls into the shore, doesn't it? But in fact, no, if you put a ball on the wave, you will see that the ball just goes up and down. It doesn't go in. The water does not come into the beach. The energy in the wave moves, but the actual water just goes straight up and down. And it seems counterintuitive. But if you, how do you know this? How do you know that waves work like this? You get a rope and you tie it to a pole on one side of the room, and you take your hand on the other end of the rope and you flick it, and you'll see the wave go down the rope, right? None of the rope moves. The rope does not move, but a wave goes down the rope and disappears into the post. You see that? Now you see that it's not the rope that moves, and it's the same in water. The water doesn't move. The wave moves. It just lifts the water up like that. So this is the change of the way we think about ourselves. We are a wave. There's a wave process in there. We do not move through time. There's just a wave process in there. So this is why there are no contradictions, there's no conflicts, and there's no mutual exclusions in this teaching. But if we don't understand it, then we will ask the wrong questions. So I hope that was some sort of explanation about how it works so that we understand it. Now, the thing is, that's a very nice kind of scientific experiment. You show, maybe in grade 9 physics, you show your class in science, you will show them how waves move by using a string or a rope. Fine. But in the case of Buddhism, it's not just an interesting fact. We have to use that idea to produce a new attitude towards how we function. If it doesn't change you in a positive way, if it doesn't increase your sense of well-being and decrease your suffering, then you have not used the information in the right way. All information in Buddhism is only for one end. It is the reduction of suffering. It's not just interesting. It's not science. It's not knowledge. It's all about how to get out of jail. The guy breaking out of jail is not interested in the key or how the key is made or any of this stuff. He just click and get out, just get out. That's all. So all of this information is just like unlock the heart and get out. Get out of the suffering. That's the only purpose of this information. So always use it in a practical way. So, any other questions about that? Because there's another written question here. Well, there's 2 more written questions. But if you have any questions about what I just answered. Okay. Was it what I said, did it make sense to you? Did it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, here's the next question. Okay. Here's the next question. So I've been explaining this for 25 years. So no wonder it should be clear by now. 25 years I've been explaining this. So okay, so next. This is from Bojidar. Ah, okay. The man with the red shirt. Right there. The man with the red shirt. Okay, so question 1.
Yeah.
What is the Buddhist view on sexual activities? Is intercourse considered, like in some other spiritual doctrines, a waste of energy, better used for cultivating sublime states of mind? Okay, so I'm going to deal with that one first. So this is a good, very practical question. What is the view? And this is, so many religious things about sexuality are so confusing. Nobody seems to know what's the wrong with this? What's the problem anyway? Why do you keep saying it's bad or good or what? You know, it's just so confusing. I think Buddhism is the most clear on this. Buddhism is not puritanical. It really doesn't have much to say about sex, except that you shouldn't use it to harm somebody. You should not inflict harm on somebody with it. That's the first thing. That's the ethical dimension. There is no mention, for instance, the Buddha never mentions once any kind of sexual misconduct, such as homosexual it doesn't mention it. It's simply not the discussion. He's interested in, okay, if you have sex with somebody else's wife, then that's going to cause a lot of harm. That's going to cause hurt feelings, and you got to have some consideration here. But it's not about the sex. It's somebody else's wife or husband. So don't do that. What if it's their daughter? No, don't do that. It's their daughter. Stay away. If you don't have permission, stay away. This is what he's talking about. But what about sex itself? Sex is a pleasure. It is a pleasure of the senses. It's like food. It's like music. It's like the smell of apple pie. It's like going swimming in a hot pool. This is a sensuous experience. He just says, look, you know how good that feels. Everybody wants these sense pleasures, and that's ordinary, normal. That's normal. And you can stay with them if you like, as long as you don't, violate any ethical boundaries. You can enjoy sex and apple pie and hot tubs and nice smells of perfume and listen to music, go to the movies, whatever you want. Go ahead. It won't hurt you, but it's not all that great, especially when you can't get it. Sometimes you can't get what you want. You can't get what you want. And then what? Then where's your happiness? You have a nice relationship going there, really good partner. It's very nice. And then she leaves. Now what? What are you going to do now? You're going to think about it. For the next 30 years, you're going to think about it. You're going to wish. You're going to dream about it. Not so good. So it's a pleasure and a certain amount of happiness, but it's very uncertain. It's very insecure. There's no stability. There's no control over it. And what if you get sick? So one person gets sick. The other one is healthy. They like the sexual relationship. But one person gets sick, and now, what are you going to do? I've had people come to me and, this is what happened. My wife is in a wheelchair now, and I'm healthy, and I love women. But I cannot. Should I go and find some other women? My wife is alive here, still love her, but we can't have sex. What should I do? You see, there's problems involved in this. These pleasures are short-lived, and all very insecure and uncertain and problematic. They got all kinds of other things to them. Ay, ay. So the Buddha said, what if we could find something better, more constant, at a higher level? That would be good. And so he says, if you want to, you can aspire to higher things, but when you do that, you have to stop with the sensuous stuff because it interferes with this. They don't work well together, so you have to put them aside. The sensuous things, have to put them aside while you cultivate the inner mind, which gives you a sense of well-being and lightness and sustained joy. You cannot pull the other ones in and get that one at the same time. They don't work together. Does it mean then, so all meditators should all now give up sex? Yes. No, just kidding. Woo, that was close. Okay, so no. It's all right. You can still live the householder's life, which is natural, normal, have sexual relationship, and still make progress in meditation. You can still do this. But at some point, if you become very, it's like you're a good amateur, and you, amateur, I don't know, ping pong player, something like that, amateur water skier. But, you're getting really good. And so at some point, you might want to turn pro, you want to turn pro. Now, when you turn pro, you really don't have time to go and do your day job anymore. You're going to have to work ping pong all the time, and then you're going to make your living from ping pong now. So this is where you have to make a decision. Should I quit my day job and make my living from music or ping pong or water skiing? Should I? So this is the choice also. At some point, sometimes in the meditation, you realize that if I really want to go to the next level, I really have to step out of my amateur life, which is mixed meditation and sensuous experiences, meditation and then sensuous experiences. It's better. My internal life is better. It's higher and so forth. And I still have sensuous experiences, but I'm getting so interested in the meditation, I just wonder where it could go if I just set the other world aside and I just did that, Maybe I go to a retreat for 10 days, and then in there I give up all of the sex, music, and apple pie. I give it up. And, well, not the apple pie. Okay, we're not the apple pie. We even here we have apple pie. So, but 10 days, and you'll find a difference. Oh, what about a 1 month retreat? Maybe 2, 3 months. Well, you find it's different. So, this is the Buddhist attitude towards sex life, is that it's not evil, it's not bad, as long as it's two consenting adults, but it's got problems to it. And there are higher things in life. There are higher things. The Buddha he just says, well, this is actually, you like that, but this is actually even better. So, you have to make some choices in your life. This is like, there are other more refined kind of pleasures. That's what. Yeah. So that's a kind of my answer to that. Okay, that's part one. The second part of the question. Are meditation practitioners who get engaged in marriage foolish? Are they even more foolish if they also make kids? Does it mean they're not really serious about their practice? Well, not foolish. We can't call them foolish because a good relationship and kids are. Even the Buddha calls it a blessing in life. It's a blessing. Most people are going to get married, have kids, and these can be a great blessing in life, but it's not the highest. It's not the highest possibility in life. There are other higher possibilities, that's all. And most people will not try those highest possibilities. Most people will look for the blessings of marriage and children. And of course, some of it's suffering. Suffering goes with that as well. There's problems with that, but it's good, it's a blessing, but there are higher possibilities as well. And this is where the existential dilemma comes in. This is where it's your choice and nobody else's choice, and nobody can make the choice for you, and it's sometimes a very hard thing. You're standing at the crossroads, and one way, family life, children; the other way, no family life, no children, spiritual life. This is the choice. This is the existential choice. There's this book by Kierkegaard, this Danish philosopher, and it's called Either or. And he thinks it's the core of life. The core of life is the problem is that we are free to make these decisions. And nobody can take that freedom from you. You are faced with a decision, and you cannot deny that you're making a decision. You can't say it's not a choice. It's a choice. It's always a choice, and you have to make the choice. And that's quite a very rich, intense experience. For some, it's easy choice. Some, it's very, very difficult choice. Right? Okay? Okay. Yeah.
I didn't use word finish. Foolish.
I did.
I mean
Dinka used the word foolish.
Because he said not serious.
You said not serious. Yeah. He said not serious.
Dinka spiced it up.
She spiced it up. She's very spicy. She's one of the Spice Girls. So I think that's it for today. For questions from the monk. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Okie doke.